Welcome back to Novel Nomad, and today I am wearing a fairly ridiculous getup for The Wild Heir. I absolutely adored this book. It is such a moving and brilliant tale of a young girl who follows her passions and dreams to carve out a place for herself in the future. Now, it starts in the early 1900s with Della Dobbs, or Cordelia Dobbs is her full name, and she's currently living at home with her mother, who is a very passionate, caring woman, and her father, who has locked himself away, who used to be a famous actor but after a car accident had to give up his career. Now, Cordelia is quite a shy and very introverted person. She absolutely loves her family and loves tinkering with bicycles and the mechanics and trying to understand how things work, and that's all she knows she's good for until the arrival of her great aunt Betty. Now, great aunt Betty has moved back to England. She married and went to live in Kitty Hawk in North Carolina, and there she witnessed the Wright brothers fly their planes for the first time. And her stories of how the Wright brothers managed to defy expectations and put humans into flight really enchant Stella. And so begins Stella's passion to fly. They start with projects such as kite making, just to understand the rudimentals of the air and how to understand nature, because it is such a delicate process of flying. Now, I absolutely adored this. The characters really gripped me from the very first. I think first I developed an absolute bond with Aunt Betty. She was the one who was really encouraging Della along. Della is a shy character, and usually shy characters are a bit hard to really relate to because they seem very withdrawn and their passions aren't shown, but not with the case with Della. Della really develops her passions, and you really begin to share in her love of flight, how she manages to overcome many personal and physical obstacles to get to where she wants to go. So this actually follows Della from the age of about 15 all the way through to roughly 25. And it is wonderful to see that progression and to really focus on female empowerment in the early 1900s. And it's not someone who's really wealthy. Della is from the middle class, and that is a great tale to see how women from the middle class who still had expectations that were placed upon their sex at the time, but how they move and transition and make those changes. So what I love about The Wild Heir is how Rebecca Mascow manages to capture your heart with characters. Her characters are so beautifully human. They have faults, they have wonderful flaws, but you still manage to love them for who they are. Even ones that are so frustrating and you just want to shake because they're being incredibly annoying, you still understand them. And that, I think, is a complete joy to read in Rebecca Muscow's writing. She also manages to place characters within time really well. It doesn't seem overly modern in some senses, and the characters who are the older characters don't seem overtly Victorian in their mannerisms. It just seems a really great time of transition and change, as it was, because it's moving away from the Victorian ideals into a new century, into a new way of thinking, and especially the huge changes that occurred during the First World War. Another thing I also loved about Wild Heir is the descriptions of nature, because Della has to be, in a way, one with the wind, one with nature, and she has to have an understanding. So there is a beautiful sense of place, especially in England. There is a beautiful descriptions of the northern coasts and all the beautiful plains around England where Della is flying. And also later into the war years, the vivid descriptions that she manages to convey of France through the letter writing. I really couldn't think of anything that I really disliked in this book. I suppose for me the ending was perfect. It suited the characters so well, and it was a really wonderful read. It just felt a bit long at times. It had that kind of sense of it was a slow ending, but it was in a way a slow book. It was something that stayed with you. It was a friend who you were talking to and you were understanding Della as she grew. So the ending really suited the writing. So whilst in a way it was a little bit slower than how most endings are, it suited the books and the characters so well. So Wild Heir is an absolutely beautiful tale of Della Dobbs finding her place within the world, and also of aviation finding its place within society, and how important flight became to the human population. I really recommend this for anyone who loves historical fiction and loves that slower, more personable read. Really connect to the characters. So thank you for watching. If you are really interested in The Wild Heir, let me know down below, or if you have any recommendations of historical fiction books that are a bit more slower read and that you really get to discover the characters, let me know. They are some of my absolute favourites, and I think some of the best ones to read during winter. So I'll see you all next time. Bye!